Fantastic Four: The First Steps was a weird movie. It wasn't rage-inducingly bad like most other Marvel films lately, but it also wasn't particularly great either. It's worth mentioning right away that the movie's shining quality comes from its visuals. The sets, the clothing, even most of the CGI looks great. It takes place in an alternate Earth that has a futuristic 60s aesthetic that the filmmakers take full advantage of in order to create a unique and fun atmosphere, and that fits in very well with how the Fantastic Four should be portrayed, given that they were originally made as a sci-fi story in the 60s. Now, the film's worst quality is what should have been its best one, and that would be the characters. There is practically no character development whatsoever in this story, and it's a crying shame because this is a story about a superhero family. We are given little to no context as to how they came together, what they think of their powers, or why they want to be heroes, amongst other things, subjects that would normally take priority in a Fantastic Four story. Part of why this happens is because the movie's pacing is all over the place. Every time there's an important story moment, they blaze through it with a montage. They montage through their origin, they montage through most of their villain encounters, they montage through everything just to quickly say, these are great heroes and people like them. And also the Invisible Woman is pregnant. Then all of a sudden, the fake Silver Surfer shows up. And by the way, people gave me a lot of crap in the past for wanting a real comic-accurate Silver Surfer instead of this knockoff, because they insist that this is a comic-accurate character, and that I need to do more research. So fine, here are all the Shala Ball Silver Surfer comic appearances. She shows up for about 5 panels in the Earth X book, with her death scene taking up most of these panels. So, clearly, this is a character that deserves an MCU film, and fans of the real one will just have to wait several more years, if ever, to see him show up. Who, by the way, was also in the Earth X comic as the Silver Surfer. They rode the board together. This movie shares no resemblance to Earth X outside of the character having the same name. So to all those who gave me a hard time for not researching this clearly iconic comic appearance, shut up. Anyway, she suddenly pops up and says, "Hey, Galactus is gonna kill you, have fun with that, bye." But then the Human Torch chases her, so she tells him an alien phrase before leaving. And this swoons Johnny Storm, so he says, "Guys, we all know I like women and space, so you must assume I like this space woman." And I'm thinking, no, I don't know that. I don't know anything about you. The movie skipped over all that. In fact, you saying I like women is the only reference to you being a ladies' man in the entire film. He doesn't speak to anyone outside the team or the antagonists. The dialogue as a whole is not particularly admirable, as many lines are equally blunt or ham-fisted. For example, the Invisible Woman appears next to the Thing and spooks him, leading him to say, "I don't like it when she does that. It's unsettling when she sneaks up on you like that." Like, yes, thank you, I figured that out for myself. So, in response to the threat of Galactus, the team gets the idea to fly out to space and see what he's all about. Galactus allows them to speak with him, and it's worth pointing out that Galactus looks pretty dang cool in this movie, a major upgrade compared to his last big screen appearance. He has a bit of a weird texture, and his colors are too dark, but otherwise this is very much the Galactus you would hope to see. He explains that he has an endless, unsatiable appetite for planets, but notices that Sue's baby has the power to potentially take on Galactus's hunger so that he himself may rest. And yeah, Sue flew out to space while 9 months pregnant. We'll touch on that more in a sec. Galactus offers to spare Earth in exchange for their child. The four refuse the deal, but Galactus puts Sue in labor. There's a big chase scene. During the chase, Sue delivers the baby. And yeah, to repeat, she gets pregnant and delivers the baby in a span of about 20 minutes. And Sue names him by saying the single word, Franklin. Why? There's no reason given. In the comics, his full name is Franklin Benjamin Richards, with his first name referencing Sue and Johnny's father, his middle name referencing Ben Grimm, and his last name obviously being shared with Reed, with the baby having a name that combines elements with the entire team. It's a pretty neat, well thought out name, but none of that is adapted into this movie. All we get is the single word, Franklin, for no reason. You just have to assume what it means on your own. In a lot of ways, it feels like we're joining this story in its 10th season, after all the important developments were already made, and now we're missing a lot of context for what the story is meant to be. But in any case, they escape the fake surfer and return to Earth, which leads to the dumbest scene in the movie, in which Mr. Fantastic tells the public about how they refuse to save the Earth by trading their son, and then he tells the people that he has no idea if he can stop Galactus. He refuses to elaborate, then he leaves.
Are we safe? I don't know.
Another smartest man in the universe classic. Of course, now the public is in a panic, and an angry mob lingers outside their house. What'd you expect, man? But eventually, Sue tells them to chill. They could have just not told the public all the panic-inducing information, but whatever. After this point, the pacing slows down to a brutal crawl, in which roughly the next hour of film is dedicated to preparing for Galactus' arrival. Nothing particularly profound happens in this segment. Sue gives a speech to calm the public. Johnny attempts to translate the alien phrase Fake Surfer said to him earlier. Reed does an educational video where he teaches us how teleportation works, and the Thing grows a goofy-looking rock beard for some reason, and leaves it on his face for the rest of the movie. It's frustrating because they almost had a great design for him, but a mix of lame costumes, lackluster effects, and now this distracting beard all hold it back from perfection. Reed forms a plan for everyone on Earth to voluntarily shut down their power so he can establish a global network of teleporters that can transport the entire Earth so far away from Galactus that it would take millions of light years for him to reach it. This seems like a wildly far-fetched plan. Actually, it seems impossible. But it doesn't matter, because as soon as they finish this tremendous amount of work and set the entire thing up, Fake Surfer appears and wrecks it all in an instant. So it's back to the drawing board. And instead of trying to fight Silver Surfer or Galactus, the team resorts to using the baby as bait to lure in Galactus so that the team might teleport him specifically away, so long as he stands in the correct spot on the trap. In order to ensure the safety of the city, the team employs the help of Mole Man, a classic Fantastic Four villain who makes several appearances in the movie and whose personality revolves around trying and failing to be funny. Regardless, they work out a deal with him to hide the city's population in his underground tunnel to protect them, and the movie just assumes we all understand the underground kingdom of Subterranea, so it doesn't feel the need to elaborate on what it is at all. Then it's final battle time, as fake Silver Surfer reappears. However, Human Torch talk no jutsus her by making her feel guilty for all the people she helped kill, and so she's out of the fight, nice and easy. Then Galactus takes his turn, and the fight plays out with him walking in a slow, straight line towards the baby, while ignoring the various attacks from the four, with him occasionally flicking them away in a gentle enough manner to hurt them but not kill them. This goes on for a solid 20 minutes or so. It's pretty underwhelming, as you would hope that Galactus would be much more dangerous, and you would hope the four would be much more strategic in their attacks, but it's all pretty whatever. Some highlights include the Invisible Woman driving her hover car all around Galactus like a horsefly while being invisible, but he just sees her and swats her unconscious. Like, girl, what was the plan there? Later, Mr. Fantastic gets taken out when Galactus stretches him unconscious. That's right, Mr. Fantastic, the guy with stretch powers, gets taken out by getting gently stretched. He doesn't just easily escape Galactus' grip like you'd expect, and he doesn't even get pulled very far. It's pretty pathetic. I've seen people online try to justify this by saying that, well, he's more of a thinker than a fighter in this one, or stretching hurts him if it's against his will, and he can only stretch farther if he consents to it, or other such nonsense. But none of these explanations are actually in the movie, and they're all dumb, because the stretch guy should not be defeated by stretching. The Thing also makes only one use of his catchphrase, "It's clobbering time," because for some reason in this universe he hates saying it, and Human Torch has to force it out of him. I don't know why it's so hard for writers just to make characters say what they're supposed to say, and I don't know why they always make such a big fuss over using classic lines. But hey, this interpretation is at least better than the 2015 one.
Clobbering time.
So the Fantastic Four are getting wrecked pretty easily by Galactus, until the Invisible Woman decides to start pushing him really hard, and Mr. Fantastic starts panicking and yelling at her to stop, because it's too much. But I'm just sitting here like, okay dude, if you say so. The movie has provided no reference for her upper limits, nor explained what would happen if she reached them, so I have no concept as to what is at stake right now. They don't even bother to do the nosebleed thing, like they did with Jessica Alba. But anyway, she pushes him really hard, with him doing nothing about it, and he's about to get teleported, but then it becomes too much, so the Invisible Woman falls over and dies. But hold your horses, because Human Torch decides he will also sacrifice himself to finish the job. However, Fake Surfer respawns from wherever she was, and sacrifices herself instead, shoving both Galactus and herself through the teleporter, and saving the day. But it's a bittersweet victory, as they mourn the death of Sue Richards. However, they place the baby on her chest, and discover that this baby is a super baby, and it restores her back to life. No harm, no foul. Then they all live happily ever after, until we get a post-credit scene with a 4-year time skip, in which we see the back of Doctor Doom's head, and then a second scene of a corny 60s cartoon intro that is a complete waste of time and adds nothing to the story. I think a lot of people were expecting this movie to be a lot more consequential, with Galactus being too powerful, forcing the Fantastic Four to abandon this Earth in favor of the one in the mainstream MCU timeline. But no, Galactus is defeated, and there's no reference to the main MCU universe. The best they could give us is a fake cartoon intro, because Kevin Feige has a weird obsession with 60s aesthetics, and he forces them anywhere he can. Once again, it's not all completely horrible, but all around this movie just feels somewhat unimpactful, like it's missing a lot of substance that you would expect from a more high quality movie. Let's look at the main cast. Mr. Fantastic. Well, he's just Pedro Pascal being Pedro Pascal. This guy is so overused and exhausting these days that Pedro fatigue has become a meme, and for good reason. I don't see Reed Richards when I look at him. I see Pedro. I don't see the smartest man in the universe. I see Pedro. I don't see an actor transforming himself to fit this role. I see Pedro. He can't even be bothered to shave his mustache. Marvel dumped way too much money on this guy, just for him to not resemble the character at all. His intelligence ranges from moronic to outlandish. It's at least nice that he's revered by his team and the world at large, and is treated as a respected leader, but at the same time it's not entirely clear why that's the case, because he cracks under the pressure constantly, like when he gives his moronic speech about how he doesn't know how to save the world, or when he fails at his insane teleportation plan, or when he cries to Sue that she's pushing Galactus too hard and wastes precious time, instead of improvising a great plan to beat him with the opening that she created. All these things together ultimately make him come off as pretty pathetic. The Invisible Woman. As stated earlier, her invisibility never works, and the only time she makes a worthwhile use of her force field, it kills her. So she doesn't get a great display of her powers in this one. She also goes along with the group to fight a cosmic being in outer space while super pregnant. I don't know why modern writers have such an insistence on putting pregnant women on the front lines, but it's weird and dumb. Keep your baby safe. Airplane flights are dangerous for pregnant women, but Sue's just gonna fly to space and have her baby out there. Human Torch. Joseph Quinn would seem like great casting for this character, though it seems like he never gets the chance to show us what he's really like. He spends the entire movie being obsessed with the fake surfer and her phrase. This obsession is so great that it hinders the tone of the film, because fake surfer represents a world-ending threat, but he constantly undercuts her danger by joking about how cute she is. The worst offense is when the Invisible Woman demands that Johnny kill her because she is trying to steal their baby. The line is delivered with a lot of weight, and it seems like it's going to be a really dramatic moment. But then Human Torch is like, "Aw shucks, just when I meet someone interesting." Marvel needs to stop undercutting every dramatic moment with jokes. It has gotten way too old at this point. Also, his Flame On form doesn't look particularly great. It's probably even a step down from the 2005 Chris Evans version. I think the main issue is that he himself doesn't look like he's on fire. He just looks red with a few flickers scattered around him. Plus, he's usually wearing street clothes in this form, and that's apparently just fine. I guess we can just assume that Reed created fireproof outfits for him, but it would be nice if the movie could flesh these things out for us, instead of blasting through all the character development with montages, just so they could slowly explain the teleporter plan that doesn't work. The Thing. His voice is weird.
Okay, that is fantastic.
The Thing has always sounded a specific way across all his films, shows, and games.
Then bring it on, Cupcake, 'cause it's clobbering time!
I thought you were supposed to get stronger the madder you got. Well, get mad, you dumb monster!
It's clobbering time. Ready to throw down.
Okay, that is fantastic.
But now they make him sound so normal that it feels unnatural. He also doesn't have a whole lot to do in this movie. He generally only exists to offer background commentary and fly the ship. Under normal circumstances, the Thing is usually the breakout star of the team, so to see him be so unimportant is sad. Part of the issue is due to the fact that he's already pretty chill with his lot in life, even though a large portion of his story is supposed to revolve around hating being the Thing, and wanting to be normal again. But nah, I guess he just got over it during the montages. His story arc is a great reason for why the Fantastic Four became so successful in the first place, so it's extremely disappointing that they would just skip over it. Instead, he has a mini arc in this movie where he builds up the courage to talk to a girl that he likes. To be clear, this isn't Alicia Masters, the blind girl who falls in love with him because she only sees him for his inner beauty. No, this is a movie original character who we know nothing about, aside from her being a Jewish school teacher, and I guess the whole rock thing isn't a problem for her for some unstated reason. This whole side story is so short and unimportant though, that it feels like filler, and it doesn't offer any great contribution to the story. The fake Silver Surfer, aka Shalabal. She spends the entire movie failing to chase people, despite being established to be fast faster than light. She was very disappointing, not only because she isn't the real Silver Surfer, but also because the group never takes her seriously, always just joking about how Johnny loves her every time she shows up, and she never gets anything done. The team should never be able to outrun her. If she wants to catch them, she will, and they'll need to figure out a different way to stop her if they want to get away from her. But no, they never really have a proper fight with her. They just kind of assume she isn't really a threat to them. Instead, Johnny very easily talks her down, and she just disappears into some unknown space, until the team needs a convenient sacrifice at the end. This movie does a lot of things better than the old Silver Surfer movie, but it also does a lot of things way worse. Galactus. He's definitely better than a cloud, and he looks pretty cool, though there is still a lot of room for improvement. For starters, he lacks a lot of color, and borders on being a big gray blob. His size also felt inconsistent, where some shots he seemed larger, and other ones shorter. Comic book Galactus can change his size at will, but I don't think that's what this was. Comic book Galactus was also much more powerful. There were times during this final battle where he seemed rather clumsy. On paper, he should be easily able to wipe them out, so I think the second act of the film would have been better spent preparing strategies and defenses for counters to his great power. Again, instead of wasting time on this teleporter nonsense that carries on for way too long. You're not going to teleport the planet and live. It's just not possible. And you're not going to get the entire planet to help you do it. That's almost as equally unbelievable. As a whole, this movie is frustrating because it's so close to being great, but falls short for lame reasons. As I watched it, I found myself really rooting for it and wanting to like it, because it does have the right idea. The Fantastic Four are a superhero family who specialize in outer space adventures. The scenery is beautiful, the few character moments that we get are rather charming, and the antagonist seems exciting and dangerous. The soundtrack is also pretty great, which is certainly high praise for a Marvel movie, because more often than not, these movies are packed full of obnoxious radio songs that don't fit the story at all. Their costumes were decent, the colors look good, except for Pedro's, who has a little too much blue, and doesn't seem consistent with the others. The costumes also seem a little too puffy, looking more like sweaters than supersuits. And again, it bugs me that the Thing wears a shirt. It's not completely uncommon, but he just looks better without it. The ideas were good, it's just the execution that suffers. The subtitle of the film is called The First Steps, but that's a misleading title because no first steps are taken. Not their first steps into space, not their first steps as heroes, none of that. For some obnoxious reason, the heads at Marvel have convinced themselves that origin stories are terrible and should be avoided. I hate this sentiment and I wish they would abandon it, because origins are necessary in order to gain familiarity with these characters.
Wow, folks, we all know the story.
Yes, comic fans might know them and general movie fans might know them, but a lot of young kids will get their first exposure to the Fantastic Four with this movie, and a lot of casual audience members won't be familiar with who they are, because they've never had a great film before, and they haven't had any film in 10 years. Plus, the team has been relentlessly slandered by the comics for as long as Fox held their movie rights. So if there were ever a proper time to reintroduce this group, this movie was an absolutely crucial time to do so. It's tough enough to keep up with the MCU story developments after so many entries, but it's even more difficult when Marvel themselves skips over essential elements for one of their more important teams. A lot of people will likely accept this movie because they'll say it's good enough, and they'll say the problems aren't all that bad, but I'm tired of accepting just good enough. The Fantastic Four are a great team with great comics, who should have a great movie. One that should be on par with Iron Man or The Dark Knight, but these mediocre filmmakers just can't get it done. I refuse to lower my standards to their level, and I hope none of you do either. That seems like it's shaping up to be the case, as this movie is suffering in the box office, though my other fear is that the people in charge won't understand why. The Fantastic Four as a story is not the problem. In fact, there's no good reason why these movies shouldn't be massive hits. First Steps should have been Marvel's big comeback after years of failure. The problem, however, lies with the filmmakers, who feel the need to remove elements of the original story in favor of their own ideas, or they'll add distracting, unimportant side plots, or they will clearly be ashamed that they are making a superhero film and will try to change it into something else entirely. Once they stop making these movies about themselves and just tell a true Fantastic Four story, like The Incredibles did, then it'll finally be a success. As far as comparing this movie to the others that came before it, well, it's certainly better than the 2015 film, but that's an easy bar to clear.
Say that again?
As far as the 2005 films, First Steps is about on par with them. It has better visuals and a more exciting plot, but the older movies have better characters, so there's a bit of a trade-off. In any case, none of these movies are actually good, and Marvel is going to have to do a lot better, though, obviously, the 1994 movie is still peak. Hey, subscribe.